right at the very epicenter of American power. I'm talking about the Council on Foreign Relations, or the CFR. Let's just jump right in. So for literally decades, people have whispered about this sort of hidden hand guiding American geopolitics. You know the theories, you've probably seen them online. They point to this highly secretive organization that has supposedly managed to place its members into the highest levels of the White House, the Pentagon, Wall Street, and it doesn't even seem to matter if the president sitting in the Oval Office is a Republican or a Democrat. It all leads us back to this one massive overarching question that drives just millions of internet searches. Who is actually pulling the strings? A lot of those whispers actually echo the exact sentiments of former FBI agent Dan Smoot. He wrote this back in his 1962 book, The Invisible Government. This right here is the classic subversion thesis. It asserts that the CFR is this hydra-headed, Illuminati-esque pro-socialist cabal actively trying to destroy the Republic from the inside out. It's an incredibly sensational, populist claim, and man, has it fueled countless conspiracy theories over the years. But for this explainer, we are making a sharp pivot away from the internet myths, the blood oaths, the alien overlords, all of that. Instead, we're going to focus exclusively on the actual empirical receipts. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand the CFR, we have to look at their verifiable historical footprint. They were officially founded back in 1921, right after the Paris Peace Conference, basically to counteract American isolationism. And their subsequent influence? Well, it's completely undeniable. Fast forward to the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference. You had CFR operatives like Harry Dexter White literally outmaneuvering the famous British economist John Maynard Keynes to help establish the IMF and the World Bank. That move essentially cemented the US dollar as the global reserve currency. They were advancing US nationalists and corporate interests. They weren't subjugating them. A few years later, in 1947, they incubated the X article, which defined the entire Cold War containment strategy. So yeah, their historical footprint is absolutely massive. But to understand how they operate today, we've got to totally abandon that shadow government myth and look really closely at their actual financial reality. Section 1. The architecture of access. How proximity to power is legally commodified. Just take a look at this staggering number, $32 million. That is the record-breaking sum of brand new major gifts secured by the CFR in just the 2024 to 2025 fiscal cycle. To put that into perspective for you, that completely outpaces the lobbying budgets of several major industries combined. And get this, it's not even an election year. This level of financial scale is exactly what underwrites their institutional dominance. It's not some dark magic, it's just massive, highly structured corporate capital. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how that capital is actually structured. We're looking at the CFR's corporate program, and they operate on a tiered access model. Notice that founders tier down at the bottom. For $100,000 or more, corporations are explicitly buying the ability to invite their clients to high-level events and get bespoke, custom briefings from CFR fellows. Think about what that really means. Corporations are essentially buying private intelligence directly from top geopolitical minds. This legally commodifies proximity to decision makers. It directly translates corporate funding into actual policy outputs. For example, recent CFR task forces have perfectly mirrored real-world legislation on things like semiconductor production and AI export controls. It's all right there, out in the open. And all of this corporate funding feeds into an organization that has achieved what we can only call total institutional saturation across administrations. I mean, look at this list. George H.W. Bush had nearly his entire cabinet from the CFR. Bill Clinton, all of his top officials except Defense Secretary William Perry. George W. Bush featured CFR members like Colin Powell and Donald Rumsfeld in his inner circle. And it goes right up to Joe Biden, whose administration includes Antony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, and Janet Yellen. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. This saturation is not because the CFR is issuing binding, secretive mandates that presidents are somehow forced to obey. No way. Actually, the CFR just acts as the ultimate vetting mechanism and a sort of holding pen for the foreign policy establishment. It's driven by credentialism and elite network clustering. Presidents pick these people because the CFR is the premier networking hub for thoroughly vetted technocrats. Section 2, Dismantling the Mythology, Analyzing the Fallacies of Coordinated Malevolence. Before we go any further, let's just take an objective look at the prevailing mythology here and really systematically dismantle the logical errors that underpin these viral conspiracy theories. You see this logical leap all over social media. The foundational pillar of almost all CFR conspiracy theories is a logical fallacy called post hoc ergo propter hoc. Basically, it's the assumption that because event Y followed event X must have caused event Y. So populists will see a CFR member enact a major foreign policy like, say, expanding NATO, and they automatically assume the CFR dictated it. But remember, the CFR simply amplifies existing geopolitical orthodoxy. These folks are invited to join the CFR specifically because they already hold massive power and align with the establishment. Assuming the CFR causes global events just because its members are in the room when they happen is, well, it's literally like asserting that an umbrella causes a thunderstorm. Which leads us to what is arguably one of the biggest deliberate misdirections on the internet, the Quigley deception. Conspiracists are constantly pointing to Georgetown historian Carroll Quigley's massive book, Tragedy and Hope. They claim it's this accidental insider's confession of a global Marxist Illuminati plot. But the structural reality, it's entirely different. Quigley was actually just documenting completely mundane financial capitalism. He was writing about an Anglo-American establishment of financial elites wielding structural wealth, which, by the way, he actually viewed as a very positive force for global stability. So conspiracists completely misappropriated his elite academic credentials to validate their supernatural cabal theories, while entirely, and I mean entirely, ignoring his actual empirical focus. In fact, Quigley furiously repudiated these bad faith distortions of his work. Just look at this quote from the man himself. "The radical right fairy tale has echoes of the original Nazi 25-point program." He really attacked the intellectual fraud of using his book to claim Marxist subversion. He noted that these populists were tragically misdiagnosing traditional financial capitalism as a communist plot. It's honestly a textbook example of how complex academic research gets cherry-picked and weaponized to sell a sensational internet myth. And this brilliantly illustrates how that exact same deliberate misunderstanding applies to the CFR's operational secrecy. Critics love to point to the CFR's non-attribution rule from 1977 as absolute proof of illegal, treasonous tribunals. But let's compare it to the internationally recognized Chatham House Rule from 1927. As you can see, they are virtually identical concepts. The CFR rule says participants can speak openly knowing others won't attribute their statements in public media. The Chatham rule says information can be used, but the identity of the speaker can't be revealed. This isn't a cloak for treason, guys. It's just a completely ubiquitous corporate and diplomatic risk management tool. It's literally just designed to let officials test out controversial ideas and debate strategy without generating immediate PR blowback or some massive international incident. So what actually happens behind those closed doors? Well, intense, messy debate. Think about it. If the CFR were truly this omnipotent, unified hive mind issuing top-down commands, you'd expect strict consensus, right? But the historical record shows the exact opposite. The CFR has actually been a theater for profound internal policy friction. We're talking bitter debates over the execution of the Vietnam War, deep internal divisions regarding the strategic viability of the 2003 Iraq invasion, and even today, intense contemporary disagreements over how to counter the People's Republic of China. They absolutely are not a monolith. They simply reflect the very real contradictions and debates of the American ruling class, which brings us to our final sociological conclusion. Section 3, the reality of corporate capture, elite networking, and the socialization of risk. So the crucial point is this. The most empirically sound framework for understanding the CFR is actually the theory of corporate capture. This is a sociological theory championed by scholars like G. William Domhoff. In this view, the CFR essentially serves as a socialization mechanism. It brings together corporate executives, academics, and military leaders to forge an ideological consensus among the corporate rich. The goal? To prioritize global market stability and protect transnational supply chains. And the way it works is by socializing the risks. That means when things inevitably go wrong on the global stage, the financial burden of those military interventions or economic bailouts falls directly onto you, the taxpayer. Meanwhile, the massive financial rewards remain safely privatized for their corporate stakeholders. It's not a shadowy unified government, it's a messy, friction-heavy system of elite consensus. Which leaves us with a final, honestly, incredibly provocative thought to chew on. I want you to really ask yourself, is a fabricated, secretive Illuminati cabal actually scarier than the mundane, completely legal commodification of our geopolitical access? The truth isn't hiding in the shadows at all. It is operating right out in the open. It's funded by $100,000 corporate access fees and highly structured elite networking. It's a tangible, very real architecture of institutional power that is so much more compelling and honestly so much more impactful to our daily lives than the internet myths. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.